Ever imagine yourself, like, leading a team in a place where things get really red hot?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into all these resources about Foundry Managers,
Right.
right?
From RoleCatcher.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that honestly kind of surprised me is they don't even mention anything about needing a certain degree for this job.
That's really interesting. You'd think with like all that responsibility,
Sorry.
you'd need a whole stack of diplomas just to get your foot in the door.
Exactly. So before we get into all the really specific stuff, what exactly are we talking about when we say foundry? I feel like most people have a vague idea.
Yeah. It's like picture a factory, but instead of, piecing things together, they're creating those pieces from scratch, like molten metal pouring into molds to make everything. I mean, we're talking engine blocks for cars, parts for airplanes, even those tiny little components you'd find in medical devices.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable.
So it's a little more high stakes than like those plastic molds we all played with in elementary school.
Just a tad, yeah.
So the foundry manager, they're kind of like the ringmaster of this whole molten metal circus.
Exactly. They're the ones, conducting this whole industrial orchestra. They're responsible for coordinating all those production schedules, short-term, long-term, you name it. And they make sure that final product is actually, up to snuff.
And I imagine there's a lot of problem saving involved given the whole, molten metal situation. Like, what happens when something goes wrong?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, RoleCatcher even mentions something called remediation initiatives.
Okay, so that sounds kind of serious.
Yeah, it's basically a fancy way of saying putting out fires, both literally and figuratively. Imagine a key piece of equipment just decides to take a break in the middle of a huge production run.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the foundry manager, they're the ones who have to think on their feet, assess the risks, how much downtime will cost, if there are any workarounds, and make a decision fast.
And all while making sure no one gets hurt.
Exactly. We're talking about molten metal here, so safety is absolutely paramount.
It sounds intense, but you can see why this role is so crucial to the whole operation.
It really is. It's not just about the metal itself. It's about keeping this complex system running smoothly, meeting those deadlines, ensuring the quality of the products, keeping everything moving. And it all hinges on the foundry manager.
They're like the glue that holds the whole place together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their decisions, their leadership, it has this ripple effect across the entire company. Impacts the bottom line, their ability to get those orders out the door, even their reputation in the industry. This isn't some behind-the-scenes kind of role. It's front and center, driving the success of the entire operation.
Okay, so we've established that foundry managers aren't just like watching molten metal flow around all day.
Definitely not.
They're making like split-second decisions, often with like really high stakes.
Under pressure, for sure.
So what are some absolute must-have skills for someone to thrive in this kind of environment? I'm looking at this list from RoleCatcher, and monitoring really jumps out.
Yeah, monitoring is huge.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like a foundry where things are constantly, in motion.
Right.
And it's not just about like glancing at a checklist. We're talking about constant vigilance, keeping an eye on all those processes, making sure the equipment's playing nice.
And keeping the team safe, too.
Absolutely. Things can change on a dime when you're dealing with that level of heat and heavy machinery.
So you need to be able to see the big picture, but then also like zoom in when something seems off.
Exactly.
Which takes serious judgment, right? Knowing when to take action and what kind of action to take.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's where this judgment and decision-making thing comes in. RoleCatcher talks about that a lot. Like, let's say you spot what looks like a defect in a batch of those metal castings.
Oh, boy.
Right? Do you stop everything right then and there and potentially lose a ton of time and money? Or do you investigate a little further, knowing you might be risking a much bigger problem down the line? A foundry manager, they need to have that, like, sixth sense to weigh those options, assess the risks, and just make a call.
And sometimes that call has to be made with, like, what incomplete information?
Oh, absolutely. It's not always to be clear-cut.
And on top of all of that, they have to keep a whole team of people motivated, productive,
engaged,
and safe. So it's not just about the technical stuff. It's about leading people, too.
It's a huge part of the job. And RoleCatcher actually calls this out, specifically management of personnel resources.
Yeah.
Basically a fancy way of saying you've got to be a people person, too.
Got it.
You can't just be a technical wizard. You need those interpersonal skills.
Mm-hmm.
You're responsible for, making sure everyone's working together, resolving conflicts, creating a safe environment. And remember, we're talking about a potentially dangerous workplace.
Yeah. So that takes leadership, right?
Yeah.
And empathy, strong communication skills.
All of that.
Wow. It's like this delicate balancing act of the technical, the strategic, the human element.
It really is.
You almost need to be like a master of time management just to keep all those plates spinning.
Oh, 100%. Time management. That's another one of those non-negotiables in a role like this. You are pulled in a million different directions. Production schedules, equipment maintenance, quality control, not to mention, team meetings, putting out those metaphorical fires. It's a lot. A successful foundry manager knows how to prioritize, delegate, and most importantly, stay calm in the middle of all that.
So how does someone even begin to like build this unique skill set? It's not something you can just like pick up overnight.
Exactly. You can't just download experience.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher actually highlights a few things: project management, lean manufacturing.
Okay, those ring a bell, but could always use a little refresher.
Sure. So project management, think of it like taking a plan like from those initial blueprints and actually making it a reality.
Okay, makes sense.
It's all about overseeing those complex production schedules, keeping everything on track.
So that's one down. What about lean manufacturing? It sounds like something you'd hear like at the gym or something.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's all about getting rid of waste, streamlining those processes, squeezing out as much efficiency as possible. And in a foundry, where every second counts, becoming a lean manufacturing guru, that could be a game changer.
Interesting. And then there's this whole Six Sigma thing. That one always sounds a little intimidating, to be honest.
I get it. It can seem kind of complex,
Yeah.
but at its heart, it's really just a way of thinking.
Mm.
It's about using data to solve problems and then, doing that over and over again, always improving. For a foundry manager, that means constantly looking for ways to refine how things are done, reduce errors, make sure every single casting meets those, ridiculously high standards.
So it's all about being meticulous, data-driven, like obsessed with quality.
Exactly. But, even with all the right experience certifications, the learning never really stops. RoleCatcher actually talks about this in their staying updated section.
Oh, right.
That ongoing learning. It's crucial, especially in a field like foundry management, which changes so rapidly.
It's like, how can you even keep up with that pace of change?
Right. That's why it's so important to stay current.
Totally. So like what, reading every trade publication cover to cover?
It's a good start. Attending those industry conferences,
Yeah.
networking,
Yeah.
talking to other professionals. Those are the things that keep a foundry manager, not just current, but ahead of the curve.
Makes sense. So it sounds like even once you've got the skills, you really got to hustle to stay on top of things.
Definitely. Especially when you're looking for a job, right?
Yeah. Like, how do you even stand out in this market? There's got to be a ton of competition for these foundry manager roles.
Oh, absolutely. And with all these automated systems, just sending your resume out there is like, well...
Like shouting into a void, basically.
Exactly. That's where, a tool like RoleCatcher comes in. They have some seriously cool resources for job seekers.
Right. And like you mentioned AI earlier, they actually use AI to give job seekers an edge. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty amazing. They analyze like hundreds of job descriptions and figure out exactly what employers are looking for.
Wow. So it's not just like guessing which buzzwords to use on your resume?
No, you're getting insights based on like hard data. Imagine being able to see which of your skills a company is prioritizing and then tailoring your resume to match perfectly.
So you're not just applying for AMY job, you're like presenting yourself as the solution to their very specific problem.
100%. You're speaking their language, highlighting the exact things they care about.
I love it. So smart.
It really is. But they also go beyond the resume, too. They talk a lot about networking.
Right. Which, like, everyone always says is important, but I feel like in a field like this...
It's essential.
Because it's so specialized.
Exactly. You need those connections, those relationships to get your foot in the door. And RoleCatcher gets that. They have all these tools, even if you're not, like, the biggest fan of those big networking events.
So it's like having a virtual wingman for your job search.
Oh, I like that. And let's not forget interview prep.
Oh, right. The dreaded interview.
Right. But they can help you get ready for those tough questions, practice your answers, all that good stuff.
It's like having a personal coach, but for your career.
That's a great way to put it. Look, at the end of the day, preparation is key. For any job, really, but especially in a field as demanding as foundry management. And tools like RoleCatcher, they can make that process a lot smoother.
So for anyone listening who's, feeling that spark, that interest in a career as a foundry manager, what would you say? What's the most important thing to keep in mind?
Honestly, this is a field where dedication is key. It's demanding, it's challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. You're at the heart of creating things that power our world.
And that's pretty cool when you think about it.
Totally. And the learning never stops. But that's part of the excitement. You're always growing, evolving, facing new challenges.
So to wrap things up, it sounds like becoming a Foundry manager, it's not for the faint of heart.
Maybe not. But for those with the passion, the drive, the willingness to learn and lead, there's a world of opportunity out there.
Yeah.
And with the right preparation, the right tools, you can absolutely forge a successful career in this field.
And there you have it, a deep dive into the world of Foundry managers. We hope you enjoyed the journey.